What is good, homies? This is Chris from the Small Hat Crew, joined today by a very special guest. Not quite a regular, but he may as well be at this point. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, it's Trevor. Talking about Newgate yet again.
I was gonna say, yeah, we have Trevor on the channel yet again with Whitebeard.
Dude, it's a classic at this point. It's the best deck.
Is
Best
this-
leader.
it's
It's best
vintage.
leader for sure. It's just, dude, until proven otherwise, this is the most consistent leader. I'll admit it. He's just too good.
What would have to prove it otherwise? Would it be like other leaders winning more consistently?
I mean, yeah, right? Because, like, if you think about it, like, what leader has done so well what leader has proven to be the best leader for fucking 4 sets? Until proven otherwise, this is the best leader.
You're forgetting, I see.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not forgetting about Blue Purple Croc. Don't you worry, buddy.
Oh, speaking of which, guys, okay, while I was out this week, I made a purchase. I want to share it with you. 1 second. There it is. OP8's not ready. OP8's not ready for that. Trevor can't see it, but he knows. He knows what it is.
I know what it is. I know what it is. We've talked about it this weekend. I think you have something going there. We'll see, though. We'll have to do some testing on it. That's the only thing we can really do.
The Small Hat viewers are no better than the Small Hat host, and I know your attention spans are much better than my own, as we learned with the previous video. So I'm throwing this near the front of the video. Trevor, is there anything or anyone that you'd like to shout out?
Yes. No, that's fine. So I would love to shout out everybody on the Sun Pirates. That's Arvin, Colin, and Mohammed. They've helped with a lot of my testing. They're the reason that I went on my this long character arc of trying new decks, and then it ended up just being that I just need to stick to the old man until proven otherwise. I want to thank actually, funny enough, Chris gave me a lot of gecko testing, which was nice. Because I think every locals with me, every time I was on Newgate, me and you paired up into each other.
Yeah, we did. It's funny because remember in the beginning it was like, oh, this matchup sucks. This is bad for Whitebeard. No,
no, it's not. It turns out
It's
you
not.
trying to Perona me every turn is fine because that means you're playing a 2K. You're not keeping a 2K in hand, and it was just playing the deck and understanding why it's good and why it's bad. I think other than that, there's not really much else I want to shout out. I think oh, and I also I do. I want to shout out Moses. He's not an online presence or anything like that, but he was there for me for that entire day. Me and him had planned on going X2 drop and just leaving to go home because it was a local event, pretty much. So it was funny. I went X1 and he was X1 after round 1, and we both looked at each other. X2 drop, and then it just turned out I won 7 in a row. So we were both happy at the end of the day. We know I did well, but I got my Nats invite, so I'm not unhappy. It's just that was kind of how the day started. Was X1, both me and him going, all right, we'll lose the next one and then drop, right? And then he ended up winning, and then I ended up winning, and then it proceeded to just snowball from there.
In the title of this video, it's the Sun Pirates YouTube channel. Give that a click. Give it a subscribe. It's actually a bunch of competent players. Trevor obviously got his top. Muhammad, also one of the 4 Sun Pirates, also performed very well. I think he got 33rd. Didn't he bubble?
Yeah, he bubbled out, unfortunately, out of top 32, but he did exceedingly well. He played some of the best players in the game right now, and I know he put up a good fight against them, and I think that was Nicky Goldman and Henry Fahm, I believe he played. I'd have to check with him again. I at least know Nicky Goldman. Let me not speak for him fully, but I know at least played against Nicky Goldman, and if you play One Piece, I know you probably have heard that name before.
Yeah, and I think he bubbled this week, but he topped the previous week, so
And funny enough, him and
he was doing it on eShow. He was running eShow in his list and everything. Also for the Black Yellow Luffy matchup, which went avoided. Whenever you're ready, Trevor, you can begin.
All right, so let me preface going into this list that yes, it is just another Whitebeard deck, and understandably, I get people are tired of the deck, but you know what? I'm not. Florida men are not.
No,
it's the best deck in Florida.
I was gonna say I disagree. I don't think people are tired of it. I think people were tired of it, but I think before when we saw nothing but Whitebeard was when we hated it. But now that he's not grand finals of every single event, he's actually a breath of fresh air.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that because guys, he's never leaving me. I don't think yet. EVO 1 testing is starting soon, so we'll see how that goes. But
I ban this man.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how else to fix the until we see otherwise. There's just no other way to fix the deck, right? Because we've tried to ban the leader, or we tried to ban some of his cards. He was still strong, and then to only get him out of the meta, we had to ban the leader. He's back, and he's still doing good. He was being played at Nats. He was being played in the last few regionals. He won the first regional in set 6, and I think he just won a regional this weekend.
This really?
Yes.
I was gonna say last weekend he got 2 top 8 placings in
yes,
wherever we were. I don't remember where we were. Was it Orlando?
It was Kissimmee, and then he
Kissimmee,
got. I mean,
right.
I don't know of another Whitebeard player this weekend at TOTS, but I know at least he got a top 16 because of me. But
because of me.
Orange Samurai though reached out to European players, and I believe he won a regional in Europe. I believe it's either Europe or Australia. Sorry to just kind of break up the content here, but yeah, I know he was reaching out for it. You can find his tweets online. I know everyone knows Orange Samurai in the community at this point.
Yeah, if you guys haven't heard of Orange Samurai.
True. Good deck always will, for me, will always be, and it'll be my favorite deck for a very long time. I don't see it changing, but I'll get right into it. Ratios that really never changed are just 4 Searcher Ezos, and then we go... This searches the high end. We need this card to be able to search the Whitebeard and Ace. Enough said. It's good. 2 Fossas, and I'll explain the blocker ratios as we go forward, because there's going to be 8 blockers played throughout this list. 4 are searchable, 4 are not, and that's the spice at the end of the list that we'll talk about. And we'll talk about why we played that specific card. Okay. 4 Fossa, searchable 2K. 3 Marco. Coming into this format, I was really iffy on this card, and it had never really come up in testing. Not that it never came up in testing, but like it just never felt like the best body in the game or in the deck. But funny enough, it overperformed yesterday. It popped every fucking brand new that got played. I was tired of looking at brand news. It popped a Cerberus or 2, funny enough, into Gecko list that I was playing. For some reason, a few people were on Gecko.
I think it was because what round were you seeing Geckos with like Cerberus?
Let me actually pull that up real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to see if that was like early on or if that was like Cerberus was actually performing really well.
Well, funny enough, it was against one of the players that you got to watch me play against.
Fisticuffs.
Yeah, fisticuffs and all. So my round 3 opponent, I took that. I mean, I went 7-0 after losing round 1. To give you an explanation of how my rounds went, I lost round 1 against the Kata player, and I lost to myself in that, and I'll explain later on as well what happened there. But I went 7-0 after that. In my 3rd round Gecko, he played a Cerberus twice, and I got to pop it with a Marco twice. And that was the 3rd round. That was the 3rd round Gecko. My 5th round Gecko player, we didn't get to play the game much. I just hit him a bunch and he died. He didn't have any counters, so
incredible.
Because like it was funny. I'll go into it, but like that game, every searcher that I played was only finding the rush cards, and it wasn't able to find any other targets. So every card I was playing was just hitting him, and he found like maybe 2 2Ks in that game. So it was just kind of a does he have it, does he not kind of situation. Yeah. Overperformed yesterday though. Very happy to have it. It was great into every yellow deck, which I played 2, 3, 4. I played 4 yellow decks, and it did really well into the Gecko matchup. So 6 matches overall is when it performed, and I was happy about it.
Okay.
2 of the Marco blocker. The reason we didn't cap out on this blocker is because I'm playing 4 of a 3-cost blocker, and I didn't want to have too many of the big blockers going into it because I wanted to be able to play like a Luffy and a blocker, or Luffy, or like. It was like there was turns in testing where it was like Luffy for 5, Fossa, and then the 3-drop blocker that I ended up playing, which we'll see at the end of the list.
I was gonna say I don't even disagree with you cutting him down to 2, because I remember when we were discussing Whitebeard, I was solving the deck. I gave a little bit of a take of my own.
Well, you can go ahead and give me that take. I don't mind. I think the take was right. I think the card is not that good. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Bro, I feel like this card... I mean, like, on paper, it's insane or whatever, right? But I feel like in practice, I feel like in the last maybe 10-ish games I've played in Whitebeard, I have never seen a Whitebeard resolve this effect. I never see this effect actually be resolved. It's always just a 4-cost 5k blocker. So...
And I don't think you're wrong there for the most part, because our cards are too important to be dumping. Like, we're going to go to it next, but, like, This is damn near the best card of the deck. I don't want to be throwing it away just to chump block something that's annoying to me. So yeah, more often than not, he is just a 4-drop 5k blocker. But with the meta being yellow, Gecko, and Sokka, he's good into 2 of those decks pretty much. So all the yellow decks, all the Gecko players, this blocker and this 5-drop are insane into those decks. They can't really, they're sticky, which is all I care about. I need sticky bodies into those matchups, and that's what they're there for.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason we play the Searcher and the reason the deck can be very strong is all the high end. So it's going to be 3 Ace. Didn't see him too much, saw him perfectly, except for my round 7 opponent, which is a Sokka player. I should have lost that game 3 times in a row, like 3 turns in a row. But it was a player that had, I kept playing very aggressively and very confidently, and I just think he was very scared to go for it. But if he did ever just strap Tendon on anything, being his leader or his Sabo that he played, he won the game. But I think Ace and Whitebeard, which is what we're going to go into next, just 3 Whitebeard is what came up in that matchup, and it's the only reason I was able to survive. Confidently playing Aces, confidently playing Whitebeards. It's a strategy. I don't know why it is, but when you're holding 12 cards in hand and you play a body and you have 0 life, they get a little intimidated, I think.
I was going to say, when you mentioned, like right before you dropped the Ace, you were saying like the reason we played the Searchers for the high end. And I was going to comment, you know, like, because we don't really need to justify why you play the Searchers. Every deck with a Searcher plays it for the most part, right? Although, that's actually not true. Because tomorrow, I'll be dropping an Arlong list. Believe it or not, he actually doesn't play the Fishman Searcher. He plays like all the Fishman, he does not play the Searcher.
He just wants to play does he just want to play like 50 best cards and like mostly triggers? Is that why he's not playing the Searcher?
Well, it's not because he wants to play.
That's spoilers.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah, that's spoilers. I'll let the content. I'll let the content provide that answer. Again, we play the Searcher. We play this specific Searcher because it searches all the high end of the deck. That's all you need it for. And plus, sometimes it is. And it happened yesterday where I was able to go for Makino for game. Going next, we go for the Straw Hats. The weakest part of the engine for me as of right now is like this Straw Hat engine. I had contemplated, actually funny enough, the night before me and my friend of mine Moses went to the location around 11:30 at night. Me and Colin had been playtesting, and me and him had thought about maybe cutting some of the Straw Hat engine, so like the Namis and a few of the other, and like the Sanjis, to put room for like more of the Whitebeard core, and then putting 4 Otama in. Glad I didn't change anything, because we don't know how my games would have went for the next day, but that was a contemplation, because it just feels like the Whitebeard engine is just too strong. 2 Nico Robin, she didn't come up yesterday because I only played against 1 Sokka player, but we play her because of the Sokkas, right?
Yeah.
We go Sanji, searchable 2k. Sometimes played into yellow if you want to be super aggressive. I played it into a Yamato player, and I played it against my first Yamato player because that game was just like, if I didn't hit him fast, I was never going to win that game because the only bodies I had were, funny enough, 1 Sanji to hit him with and 2 Luffys in that game. I won that just because the amount of swings I could put down in like 3 or 4 turns was enough. But yeah, that's the only time this card came up as a body. Other than that, it's just a 2k.
Okay.
More searchable rush, because we want as much rush as possible to be searchable. Sanji, I only played him once yesterday, though, and funny enough, it wasn't even for the rush mechanic. It was to put a 6-drop on the board, force the Sokka player to remove it, to waste removal on that, because he didn't have a Kuzan, so he was going to rip cards out of his hand, and then it was to play an Ace into Whitebeard. And it was my round 8. Or it was the one time I played Sokka, which was round 7.
In case anyone is curious, is it just a counter? Is that why you don't play the 4th Luffy over the 2nd Sanji?
Yes, it's just the counter. There's already enough bricks in the deck. Now, I will tell you that I'm going to talk about the one change I would have made to the list, and it's coming up right now, actually. If I were to like do everything over again, there's only one change I would make to this list going forward, and it would be this change here. And I'll put them both down at the same time. Is I never used guard point for guard point. I only used it to ever revive Marco. Oh, yeah. So what I would change this event to is to another kick course, and then maybe I can feel okay to put this 2nd Sanji into the 4th Luffy. That's about it, though. Other than that, it's because it's a counter that I was only not playing the 4th Luffy, and then I played the 1 guard point because I didn't think I wanted 2 kick course because it does rip 2 cards out of your hand.
Yeah.
But it's always there if you need it when you're bricked up a little too much.
Yeah. Bricked up.
And that's what happened in the Sokka matchup. Actually, is if I didn't have Kick Course, I wasn't going to be able to survive one turn of his. But Kick Course did save me in one turn, and then I wish I just had the second. Sometimes I wish I did have the second Kick Course. And then 4 Rad Beam, it's a staple. It was banned for a reason. Crazy card.
It was limited.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. It was limited. It was limited for a reason. That's right. Yep. I mean, when Whitebeard was banned, Radical Beam felt banned. You know.
Yeah. No. That is true.
So, go ahead.
No. Go for it.
So next, just to round out the list, there's only 4. Unless you don't include the searcher, if you don't want to include the searchers, there's only 8 non-searchable targets. So it's 16 total if 16 total if you do include the searchers. It's going to be 4 Makino, and then it's going to be 4 Shiraya. Going into this event, I was last week in Kissimmee, I was playing Gecko, as Chris knows, and that was because I didn't feel confident in Whitebeard. Whitebeard topped, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I should never have doubted the old man. I brought back Whitebeard, but then I forgot Black Yellow Luffy comes out, and we had played that matchup 7 times in a row after the regional with Colin from the Sun Pirates, and I lost all 7 games, and it's because I could not keep up with the leader being 9k and swinging and ripping cards out of my hand every turn. It turned out, though, with one day of just in the lab thinking, it was like, what card kind of neutralizes, like, giving up 2 to 3 cards every turn? And it's this card right here. On block, on attack, you go to the same power as the leader, to your opponent's leader. And it turns out that's a very good thing whenever you're trying to get cards out of the Black Yellow Luffy's hand, because that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to get to a 9k base so that you're not really attacking them and ripping cards out of their hand. Right. But this helps prevent that. Funny enough, I put this card in for that matchup, and I never saw Black Yellow Luffy. Yep. But I did end up seeing a bunch of yellow decks, and it turns out this also does really good in just into yellow decks in general. Being that Kata for 1 Dawn goes to 7k, and if you don't have 2ks or you don't want to give up like your Makinos because you feel like you could use these to go for game, you could go block Shiraya, use a 1k that's less important like a Sanji. And then the other thing it came up into was a Yamato player, both Yamato players. I was able to stick 2 of these on the ground, and he only had 1 Amaru, so thankfully he was able to only rest 1, and then I blocked out of the other.
I don't know if you know, but did any Black Yellow Luffy's actually top? Because everyone I've seen like discuss the matchups, no one ever says they ran into a Black Yellow Luffy. Like for example, Chris Sock, I think he got 3rd on Gecko. Yeah. He didn't play into a single Black Yellow Luffy either, any of his rounds.
Interesting. So I don't know if any Black Yellow Luffy's topped. I know in my second to last round, Eric Quintana was right next to me. He was on Black Yellow Luffy for this event, but I believe he went 7-2. So maybe he top 32 probably. I didn't look at the listings past 16, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know if Black Yellow Luffy topped. There was an RP Law in my final round, so he was close to topping. There was this weekend felt wild for your matchups. You were not running into meta a lot. There was a ton of Yamato players, a ton of fucking Black Yellow. Even though a lot of people were dodging them, there were still a good amount of Black Yellow Luffy players. RP Law was out there. I mean, there's a fucking Arlong then top 32 or whatever.
It wasn't just an Arlong, because after I interviewed the Arlong, he told me that there was also a Zephyr that went X2 as well.
Yeah, that was another thing that someone came up to. One of our locals, funny enough, Chris.
Really?
I don't think you know him, but he faced that Zephyr player, I'm pretty sure. I heard about the fucking rogue Zephyr player that had just been running around the regional. This regional was really weird.
By the time I found out, because like I stayed after or whatever to get the Decklist from the Arlong player, and then he was the one that told me, and I was like, well, at this point, there's no shot I'm getting the, like,
yeah.
Because I think I would have. Honestly, I think I find that even more interesting than the Arlong. Like, I want to see
they're on the same page. I think.
You think so? Well, here's the thing, though. 'Cause I feel like with the Arlong, I feel like it's probably a safer guess as to like what the list would look like there, right? But I'm curious to see what the Zephyr's doing. You know, like, is he ramping the 10 to drop Kuzan? What's his Gecko play look like? Like, what's, you know?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's a fair point. I think there are some ideas that I would love to have seen that list, and maybe one day it'll be posted. Maybe we'll find it rogue on Twitter or something like that.
If any of you know who the Zephyr player was, please reach out to me. If you can get in touch with the guy, I want him on the channel so bad. I want to know what that list looks like. Like, please, somebody make it happen.
But yeah, I don't know. the tournament was stacked. The amount of good players that were in this tournament were insane. But the amount of rogue decks that were just felt like they were being played. Not Yamato is rogue necessarily, but like you're not expecting that over seeing like Sokka, Katakuri, or Gekko. There were a ton of Whitebeard players out in this event. I don't know if there was any other tops from Whitebeard other than me. As of right now, again, until Eggman posts or someone posts all the list. I know top 8 was like primarily Sokka, and then there was like 1 Yamato and 1 Gekko, I believe, for our top 8 at this event. But yeah, the event was crazy. My entire lead up to the event was wild. Me and Moses, to give a little background, is me and Moses had gotten there at 2 in the morning to get on the wait list because I have heard this horror stories of the past few events in their wait list and like how many people were getting in. So I said, Moses, let's leave at 11:30 at night on Friday night to get there at 2 in the morning on Saturday morning. We ended up getting there. We go to line up. We get pulled into the building finally around like 6 in the morning. Yeah. We're there in line till 8. We get our wristbands to confirm our spot in the line so we could go out and get food and just relax and not be in a line for another 8 hours or another 2 hours. Turns out, though, our friend Mike Tanaka, who showed up at 8:30 in the morning, got in off the wait list at number 34. So me and Moses did feel like a little bit of a dumbass, but we were just playing it safe. I didn't get any sleep going into the event from 11:30 at night till that morning, and then I didn't get any sleep up to the event.
Bro, you can't say that. That makes Whitebeard look so bad.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care. I'm still proud of my fucking run because I had no sleep and it showed in my round 1 because my round 1 I had a Marco, Whitebeard, Ace, and leader on board. He had played 10-drop Mom and he had burnt a Luffy to my life. But for some reason in my head I had thought he hit me and I had that Luffy in my hand. So I had played out the turn like I had the Luffy, did all my swings, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, I got this. Even though a Brule popped out of the last life, I said, oh shit, I don't have that Luffy in my hand. And it was, I lost from there. It was a nightmare, but that's okay. We recovered. We went 7-0 right after that, after the traumatic round 1 there.
I was gonna say, Nick was talking to, I think he may have been the head judge. He was talking to one of the judges, I don't remember. But
yeah.
It wasn't just like Mike got in at like number 32 or whatever. Apparently, every single person on the waitlist made it in.
Did they? I thought
all
only
of them.
I thought everyone but 2 didn't get in.
Nope.
That's what was like crazy to me. Ah, okay, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm so glad. That's crazy that enough people didn't show up for the 384 man event for everybody on that 30+ man waitlist to get in.
For anybody that's like, I guess, if it's for some reason treating this as their introduction to Whitebeard or whatever, what matchups do you take first? What matchups do you take second? What do your mulligans look like? The usual.
Yeah, so I won little to no die rolls on yesterday's event. But most matchups you just want to take first. The only ever time that you want to take second, funny enough, is into the Yamato matchup. And when you're mulliganing, you want to see 1 to 2 searchers. One searcher is if you already have like a Whitebeard Luffy in hand or an Ace Luffy in hand. You want to see the combination of a 5, 7, 9 curve somehow in there. The reason we want to take second into Yamato is because we want them to go 8k at lead. I as a Whitebeard player, most of the time it's depending on your hand, feel comfortable taking the first 8k instead of giving them 2 cards there. Because usually what happens with Yamato players is they'll go 8k at lead when they're going first, and then it's on their 5 Dawn turn, they'll go play Onami 8k at lead banish. That's when you want to give up 2 cards and not feel like you have to, because if you give up 2 cards on the first swing, then you're giving up 2 more on the next one, right?
Yeah.
Or at least minimum 1, right? And that's 3 cards out of the game when you're facing a leader that all they're going to do is hit you. So just don't do that. Don't like play into that mindset of, oh, they're going to hit me. Because realistically, you don't need Whitebeard in that matchup. You really just need to see Ace and Luffy in that matchup just to hit them. They have little to no counter usually, and if they do have counter, that means that they don't have a Hody, they don't have a Maru's, and reject. If they reject you, you're happy because realistically, you're a 6k leader. That's 4 Dawn gone out of their swing to hit you with. You're probably gonna be able to counter out of a swing that they reject you on.
On a relevant topic, then what are favored matchups and what do you not want to see?
So favored matchups, funny enough, I think you're good into the Gecko and Sokka matchup. I think those are probably your favorite matchups because of just how aggressive you can be. Sokka, if they can start, only deck that of those two that gives you issues, in my opinion, is Sokka, and that's because they can recur resources with the Rebecca and the Sabo constantly, and they have a better time. They have a better time doing that than the Gecko players because they play 4 Rebeccas. Geckos don't usually play 4 Rebeccas; they play 2. At minimum, it's 2, and I haven't seen many more play than that. Play that ratio more than that ratio. So those two feel pretty favored. I didn't feel uncomfortable in any matchups of those two. RP Law is super favorable because I know that's somewhat of a popular deck right now. Even before EBO 1, still people are playing it. Kata has become our worst matchup, and that's just because the amount of heal triggers that they have now being usually 5 to 6, right? So you have 2 to 3 of the 0 cost and 2 to 3 of Amaru. So their range can be from 4 to 6 usually. They don't cap out on those 2 events, but that can be very problematic. Beige is always an issue, and that's a 4 of. Brules are being 2 of Brules is probably being played in most Katakuri list, like the guy that I was playing against in round 1. And then Sanji is also an issue. Those can be very scary, not scary, but just annoying to deal with when you're going for game. And then, but even though that's it feels like it's sometimes an unfavorable matchup, you still have the reasons you can win it. It's just like overpowering them with the amount of body, like the size of your bodies. And I think that's also why like the Shariah was played, was because of the Kata matchup. It was good for the Kata matchup as well. It let me just, every time they would go 8 and 9k with their leader, it's like block, give you 1k, and then again that helps you whenever you're trying to fend off those late like 7-drop moms or the 16 at leader type things that they do at the late game just to go for a game. That can happen a lot.
Another question, or I guess the same question from before, but we just never got around to it. What do Mulligans look like in this deck?
Yeah, so I thought I had touched on it a little bit with like what you're searching for is like one searcher and then like the Rush Luffy Whitebeard or Rush Luffy Ace combo.
Oh yeah, never mind.
No, you're good. Yeah. So so pretty much like, and I can do it by cost because it's how the deck works. Is like you're looking for a 1, 5, 7, and 9 play. So that's either your Marco or Luffy, it's your Ace and your Whitebeard. And if you don't have Ace or Whitebeard, I would hope that you have like the blockers to supplement your plays, to like play a blocker Rush Luffy, play a blocker Marco, play double blocker. It's all about it's the body game with this deck, even more so than other decks because they're playing some decks are playing the control game. This deck is if you start losing, if you don't have efficient bodies, you're behind because you're only doing certain. That's all this deck does is play bodies, swing, play bodies, swing.
Any closing thoughts or anything that you wanna say, Trevor? You already did your shout outs. I assume probably not, but just in case.
Real quick, one last shout out. I don't think he'll ever hear it, but if he does, it's awesome. These 2 people, Brandon Corpus and Evan from the Orlando crew, they're also the people that put me back on Whitebeard because they did so well at Kissimmee, and I've gotten to talk to them over the last year or so about Whitebeard and how like just talking about the deck and stuff like that with them and joke about just hopping with it. So I did want to shout them out real quick. But other than that, please do subscribe to the Sunfire CCG if you don't mind. That'd be great. We do post content pretty regularly at this point, and we should have a few more videos going up this week or so, including a podcast going up soon about our recent events with these last 2 weekends, going over them.
With that being said, then until next time, we'll see you guys.
See ya.
No Shaka?
No Shaka. I mean, like.
Okay.